in the wind, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending, word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses so clean, so long. You better catch a God throwing the scenes. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
I am doing so well today. I'm out of my procrastination mode. It's still cold, but I got my coffee fueling me. I got my heater on. I'm feeling blessed.
Blessed. Well, that's awesome. Well, I got my heater warming me over in the corner. I got some cold juice, but still, it's like room temperature, but it's still cold because it's like 60 degrees down up in this Carlsbad streets. Now, I know 60 for some out there is it's California cold, but I'm just saying, got my hoodie on, got my warm socks on, got my shoes on, now my slides, my feet.
You know, because some days it would not behoove us to stand at any point in this here talk show that we do.
Yeah.
It would not be a good thing maybe for some people they might like that, but I don't think my husband would like it.
No, not your boy, Steven, as you say, Steven, but we call him Steve. His mama call him Steve, I'm gonna call him Steve. So
yes.
Well, I guess we should say hello. So hello to everyone else out there that's been watching, following, and listening. We appreciate those who are coming along with us on this journey. Man, Shell, this particular series right now, we are week 3 of a 5-part series we're dealing right now. I know step 1. I'm going to put that up here. I love that. Whoops. Is it not show?
Well, you asked me to help you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was trying to help you. And then
my bad.
You rejected my help.
Sorry. My bad. Actually, you know, it's funny too. In getting geared up to do the record and make sure we got back in and make sure I didn't have my mute on and got that all stuff through. I was actually able to get to the screen the right one. I was like, oh yeah, got it. It's exciting. So I admit that I have something to be forgiven and not being able to know the software is good after 14 episodes, but you know,
you're good.
Awesome. But I'm for those who are going through like me for the first time, Sheila's got this great series that she has written, that she's given the talks on big stages before. And I love this opportunity that we all have to go with it together with her for the first time. So those, again, please believe it, I haven't seen this material either until our strategy sessions. And so I'm learning it as well as you are, as you guys are going. So step 1 is admit there's something to be forgiven. In the last couple, 2 weeks ago, when we opened that topic and we kind of touched on it as we've gone the last couple of weeks too, that in itself has been a tough one for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, because we don't really want to always admit our part in a thing. Some of us like being victims and victimized, and kind of it's always somebody else's fault, but there's enough fault to go around in every situation. So that's always something to definitely take part in. And then step 2 I enjoy here is to name it and take away its power. So for that last week, Michelle, we talked a lot about what were those specific instances, what were those specific things that we needed to call out that we needed to take away its power. For me, there's moments where I felt like a victim, where I felt like I was being overlooked, or I felt helpless in some cases like that. And being able to actually speak out those things, especially if you're in romantic relationships with people, you've got to be able to say what's making us feel a certain way. And into that, the relationship always seems to feel like there's, an elephant in the room, right? And unfortunately, the saying is, I'm the elephant in the room. That's us. But so often we want to make it seem like it's something else, or it's a situation that's sitting there between us and we don't want to talk about it. You don't see that pink elephant? Well, no, because an elephant like ourselves can't see itself because their eyes they're from the perspective of the problem. And in a lot of cases, we are the problem when we know it's there and we don't
Mhm.
want to call it out and say this is what we're feeling. So that
Yeah.
brings us really to step 3, which is this week's topic of
Mhm.
forgive yourself by acknowledging your part. And I love this part particularly, Michelle, because and I know you're getting I don't know. I always want to ask you, how did you get this idea? I mean, I know God gave it to you. I'm just saying, but when you got it, how did you get it to this point? But because the forgiving yourself and acknowledging my part is a huge thing. It takes
Mhm.
the weight off of our shoulders with the issue.
Yeah.
But I know from my past, this is sometimes what feels like the last part. No, I don't.
Mhm.
It's the last part. We don't get there. I'm just saying, but this one, I think, is people take a long time to really get here, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think too, gosh, you've already started me with my 2 things already, and we're not even in 10 minutes. I'm gonna come back to the elephant in the room because I had a client and that was an analogy that we talked about. And then for step 3, forgiving yourself, acknowledging your part. Yes, it is a process, and I think that's why when it was downloaded to me,
Hmm.
it happened in the middle because the next part of the next step after this is to forgive your offender.
Mm,
And I think it was important now that I'm in it, right? I'm
yeah,
out of it in some ways, right? But I'm out of it from the time that I got these steps, but
right.
I'm still in it because there are other things in our lives. It's not just one instance that you need to forgive and everything is lovely again. It sometimes it's things that you have to work through and dig through. And I think we left off on asking our listeners to come up with a list, come up with that list of things that you need to forgive. And you may see that there's some branches in some other areas that if you can just unlock that one,
Yeah.
then some of these other things kind of, they probably might seem a little less significant. I'm not going to say insignificant, but less significant. And so then we're able to, go through these steps again with each one of those things. But forgiving our offender, it's easy to fall victim and fall into a victim mindset of like, well, they did this to me, they did this to me, they did this to me. But if we can do the step 3 before and realize how we even got in that relationship where this person had access or control or influence to get us to the place that we are in, then it kind of like you can only deal with yourself, and that's really what today's message is really about. And then finally, step 5, after we begin forgiving ourselves by acknowledging our part, we forgive our offender, and we can let all of this stuff go. Oops, I need that heater on. I hit the wrong button. We can let go and live. And when I say let go, if you have seen on my YouTube channel where I'm talking about this, I literally ask you to put a fist up and try to poke a hole in there, try to open it with your hand, and nothing can get in there. It's not until you let go that you're
Mm.
open to receive the newness of who you are and how you see yourself differently. So really, our goal is to get to that number 5. But before we get there, we got to deal with this.
I don't know. I would say I don't know, like, because you feel like I have to do this step almost all 5 steps daily, right?
Mm,
Because there's situations that occur where we'll have a confrontation with someone or a disagreement with someone, or we'll just make a mistake, or we'll feel some kind of way that it requires all of these steps to make it through.
yeah.
uh, Ryan and I had a situation where I was frustrated with him. He hadn't done his part that he agreed to do
Hmm.
with getting a car repair taken care of. And he's been, choosing to just ride in my Suburban and do just no big deal. I'll just take dad's car. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but what if dad needed to go somewhere that I didn't feel like riding in a 72 Pontiac all the time because it sucks major
I
gas.
mean, but who doesn't want to roll in a 72 Pontiac every day?
I mean, that's wonderful, but there's moments when the 72
Yes.
needs to
Yes.
stay on the driveway because I may need to
Yes.
go to LA or the moon, or
Yeah.
I may want to have heat because I haven't got the heating system fixed in the 72 right now. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
certain things that the
Yeah.
Pontiac is good for, like cruising on
Yeah.
the weekend, but a
Yes.
2 hour drive, and it's not comfort. I'm a bigger dude, right? I need some more leg room, so I'm like, that's just
Mm,
me. So he and I had I had a heated one-way discussion with him,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed to come back, not necessarily to apologize for what I said, but apologize maybe for some of the ways I had chosen to say it. And going through this and acknowledging my parts to this that needed to be forgiven, and I want to make sure he forgive me for how I approached him. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it diffused the situation, because I think for a good day he didn't really speak much to me, because Ryan's the kid where when he comes home or gets up, he comes give me a hug, kiss me on the top of my head, and please, that dude was like, he didn't even say hello.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? Let alone do anything else. And I
yeah.
made sure I called that out to him, that I noticed, so he didn't think
Mm-hmm.
that he just was getting away with something, or he doesn't care. What? No, I noticed. And I
Mm-hmm.
think these steps is what helped us get to a point where the conversation was the conversation.
Yeah.
Facts are friendly and the truth sometimes hurts. But
Yeah.
we were able to get him past the, you know, dad is a dollar sign hole,
There you go.
and
Good
we able
job.
to get past that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love this. So this is definitely practical knowledge for us.
Yeah. When you were asking when I was in it, how did I get to the point where this I had to see myself, and um I remember being so hurt and so broken and
Mm,
so angry and so disappointed with the other person
mm,
that hurt me.
yeah.
And then I thought about how many people have I hurt?
Mm,
And some people we hurt
yeah.
unknowingly.
Yeah.
There are conversations in families that need to be had because there was a misunderstanding or no understanding, and I only thought what I thought, and I didn't understand where you were coming from. And so then that's my opportunity. Like, when I recognize that, like we talked about in previous episodes, when I recognize that there's a problem, then I have to take responsibility and ownership for that and go to that person, right?
Yeah.
There are other times when I knowingly engaged in behaviors, activities, thought processes that I knew were hurtful.
See, and you kind of smile a little bit bigger when you just said that right now. You was like, "Ooh, I got that."
Yes. Yes. There were times when I wasn't honest. There were times when I was misleading. There were times when I knew I had a boyfriend and I had another boyfriend. There were times, and that's real. I never had two husbands at the same time, contrary to what somebody said about me. Anyway, um, I had to go through that forgiveness process. Also, actually, I think I'm still in that in a way. Let's talk about that for a minute, because this person dist- did some real damage. Not only it wasn't even about me in the beginning; it was about my brother and the
Mm,
church. And this person went back into the 60s and 70s where they weren't even relevant. They weren't alive. They weren't at my dad's church or anything, and made some claims about my parents as well. So there was just like this, there was this war, and it left bodies and shrapnel everywhere
mm,
because of a lie that this person told. So
right.
my how I know I've healed a portion of the way for that particular person. This was not a love relationship, by the way. This was not even really a friendship. This was somebody that knew us, we trusted, but got too freaking close. And we knew the potential, but we were like, okay, well, she hasn't been that way with us. And literally, Shell was out at one moment, and I was like, on site.
It's on site.
Y'all know what that means, on site. Didn't see her, and thank God I didn't, because it would have been a problem. Um, but to this day, because there has been some separation, I think I have forgiven her,
Mm,
but it still is a reminder for me. I've forgiven her for what she did, because I know that she's ignorant, and I know that she did that intentionally. That's what she has to deal with. I can let that go. She's not a part of my life, has no whatever. Um, but there was a part of me that still had to address. Did I share too much?
mm,
Did I was I completely trying ignorant in the sense that I was ignoring behaviors
mm,
that I knew that she was capable of. And even if she reared her head a little bit, I'm like, well, she wouldn't do that to me. Was I naive?
Mm.
And that was the process of acknowledging my part for that particular situation. In my marital or divorce situations, I had to forgive myself for what I didn't know as well. That was tough. There were certain things in my relationships that I didn't know were happening, particularly as it relates to my kids. They were not sexually molested by either one of my previous husbands. However, there was some abuse, physical abuse that was happening. There was some verbal abuse that was happening. There were a lot of things, and I knew it was bad when my first husband said, "Listen, let me handle that." You know, I didn't even know how bad it was, but I had someone who had hurt me coming to my defense.
Mm.
That's a big deal. So there was a lot to unravel there. And I had to realize what I had ignored, what I had let slip, what I just wasn't aware of, where had I been naive, where I could have said no, but said yes, thinking that okay, if I say yes, it's gonna save this relationship, or it's gonna those are things that roam around in our heads and in our hearts when we're getting ready to start a new relationship or a new friendship. These are the things that come back to mind. So in order for me to heal and be healthy with Big Daddy now, it's like I had to acknowledge those things that I ignored, that I was willing to sweep under the carpet. And it was hard. It was hard, and it was necessary.
I think if we all would take these 5 steps serious and pursue them and do that work, I'm not saying that these are the only 5 steps in our
No.
life that we'll ever have to do, but there's other steps in our life to put that work in, to dig up these old mindsets and behaviors that we've been so accustomed to and comfortable with, right? But I guess just to say this, we should never become so comfortable with hurt and being hurt that it becomes something that, without feeling hurt and being hurt, the relationship isn't valued.
Yeah.
And we should definitely spend the time trying to understand what makes us tick and what we think are wonderful. And I feel, and I do this because, and I'm so grateful actually for actually being able to do this and have these 2 hours a week that I can sit and you and I talk through things. Because
Hmm.
when you go through life, it has nothing to do with loss or nothing, divorce, loss, death, whatever, loss of a job, loss. It's just, if once we get accustomed to losing,
Hmm.
that becomes a problem, because
Hmm.
losing once or twice should have been a struggle. The third or fourth time we kind of go, oh well, then I guess it's who we are, and
Yeah.
so you stop trying. So does that mean that the third and fourth time that you lose, did you lose because you stopped trying, or was it just what happened?
Mm.
And those who
Hmm.
follow basketball, there was, the Detroit Pistons in this particular season, they had a really long losing streak. That team could have packed it up at game 30 and just figured, oh, well, our season, next 50 games, I guess we're going to lose those too.
They could have
But
packed it up, huh?
they could have packed it up, packed it in. It wasn't like it was the end of the season when they was trying to get playoffs, draft
Yeah.
rights for the next dude, right? But they actually kept playing almost harder then to get the win, because they knew teams was selling them short. For
Yeah.
me in my life, I've watched people sell me short, and I have to admit to the fact that, I forgive myself for even acting less,
Hmm.
because I was used to not having, or I'm not I'm not sure where I'm at in terms of where my business is. I'm not established like others, so I'm still trying to find footing for my brand.
Yeah.
That may make you walk a lot more. I'm not going to use the word humble, because there's false humility too.
Yeah.
You still begin to walk less and not confident in who you are. It doesn't mean I know everything, doesn't mean we know everything, but there's a falseness that makes you meek, and not meek in the terms of meek shall inherit the earth, but it's almost like docile to the point where I don't even want to try because they all got me beat. You need to be comfortable and confident in the fact, hey, then my product is just as good as yours is, and mine is still growing and yours is too, but we're going to grow at different rates, and be excited, just as excited as I am for mine as he is for yours. And if we don't ever get to that point, Shell,
Hmm.
we're never going to grow. because we can no longer keep sitting and keep believing that we're not going to be able to do something.
Yeah.
We've got to believe that we can do something.
As you were sharing, I thought about there's right now, again, these shows are going to air further, in the future. So what's going on right now may not be going on when it's aired. However, there's a situation going on. I'm not going to go all into it, so don't hold your breath. Okay, I'm okay. But there's a situation that's going on with Cat Williams, Kevin Hart, the whole, comedic community, Puff Daddy, all these different scandals and things that are going on. And Steve and I were talking, and he was like, "Well, babe, what do you think?" Because I'm kind of looking at these people differently now, and I'm like, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, what do you think about this comment about this person being in a position because of what they might have compromised or what have you?"
Sure.
Didn't it seem like this person's career took off faster than other people's career? And I'm like, I said, you know what? I'm not going to touch that. We're in conversation, obviously, me and my husband, and we're our beliefs are our beliefs. But I said, you know what? For me, I'm not going to touch that. I said, because I don't know how long these people, whoever they are, were in the trenches digging out and becoming who they are today.
Yeah.
I don't have a personal relationship with them to be like, oh yeah, I remember when I saw such and such, on the corner doing X, Y, and Z, or when I saw them at this club and they, they sucked, but they kept. I don't have that experience with these people, and going and bringing that into my own life. We might be blowing up to some people, but they have no idea how long we have been in the freaking trenches. And I often say that people who see my success now, whatever that is, however they rate their or value their own success in comparison to mine, they would not trade seats with me when I was going through the process to get these steps.
Yeah.
They would not have endured what I endured, nor would I want to endure what you endure, Craigie, to get to where you are right now.
Yeah.
So there's a piece of this where there is no comparison. My success, my failure, I have to own all of that.
Yeah.
And I can't compromise what I went through because you don't believe it or you don't understand it. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it wasn't a real thing for me.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it wasn't a real thing for my kids or for my husband or for my relationships. It's real because it's happening to me. And I think that there's a danger when we start discounting what people need to acknowledge in their own lives as truth for them to heal, for them to forgive, for them to move forward in a way that is designed for them.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was listening to somebody talk about how we really need to stop getting hooked on scrolling through social media or YouTube and things like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. But why? Some of the information out there is good. Some of it's bad. People could be, don't be silly. Probably a lot of it's bad, but I can't say a lot of it's bad because I don't look at a lot of the content. I look at the content that's there. The issue really is the perspective that we have. So to your point, it's really how we're looking at it. And when I find myself stuck in the scroll, this one gentleman had made a statement that says, in China, for instance, on TikTok and other social medias, they only allow the positive content to filter through to people's phones. Versus here in the US, specifically, we get everything. We don't see the positive. Maybe we do see the positives. Maybe the algorithm runs up the ratchet a little bit, more than the not so ratchet, right?
Yeah.
And even if you look on the news, for those who happen to watch the news or headlines, whether it be regular TV or whatever, the more tragic information usually catches our eye to get to the top of the news story versus the feel-good stuff, the stuff that should really motivate you for good. It may get a small little byline in the newspaper if you read the newspaper way on the last section in the back corner, or if it makes it any part of a broadcast, it's usually within the last 2 minutes as they're doing the farewells at the end of the show when really people are getting up, doing other things or scrolling. If we really, I bring that to step 3. So many of us can need to forgive ourselves for not even trying or thinking about the good
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
we have done with whatever we are in our businesses
Yeah.
or life or family, and so not to second guess it or displace it or put it down because we're not at 10 million followers or we're not at all these people for certain financial status. That's something I know personally I need to forgive myself for, because I've had people who just recently, oh, I hear your business is blowing up. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, to other people, it may be.
But what is it to you?
Right. And in my own life and in my own head, I need to look at it and go, yeah, it is. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and it may not have changed from last year or last week or 6 weeks or 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if we
Mm-hmm.
don't speak those things that are not as though they were, and if we don't agree and believe that the
Mm-hmm.
good is happening, then we're going to believe that the bad is happening. And we're
Mm-hmm.
never going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that came to mind last night, so I was working and preparing for today, and I don't know if you've seen that movie on Netflix, The Circle, I think it's called, with
Mm,
Tom Hanks.
no, not
So
yet.
I won't do any spoiler alerts. I'm not that much of a hater, but it was about how social media basically there is potential that what we post and what we see and the lack of privacy as it
Mm,
relates to what is shared or what can be shared can be harmful,
yeah.
you know, and how when the people who are making these particular products are challenged to do the same thing that they're encouraging us in the
Mm,
experiential way
yeah.
or experimental way of sharing our whole lives and what that opens up, there's no limits. There's no limitation on what is good,
Yeah.
and we are bad or what shouldn't happen or the lack of respect goes in that same way where there's no limit because we're not cognizant of how we are, how the decisions that we make, I'm trying to be very careful, how the decisions that we make for other people, the choices that we make, the things that we share, the things that we say, the things that we do
Mhm.
are not necessarily the same things that we would want to happen to us.
Right. Right.
And so when we come up with ways to speak our truth and I'm sharing and I'm being real and what is the harm that could come of you doing that? And if someone was to reverse the role and do that to you, would you still be happy that you have this product or that you have this platform? And I think about that with us as well. And one of the things that you and I agreed on early on is that, we would be careful with the names that we share.
Yeah.
Not that it's not our truth, not that we're spreading lies, but
Right.
to protect those people that maybe they're not in the same place as we are, as healed as we are, to talk
Yeah.
about some of the things that we talked about through our lens and bringing them along this journey. And while we are promoting healing and wellness and mental health and self-care and all of those things and restoration, if it's possible, reconciliation of relationships, there's still a piece of us that has to remain human. What would it feel like on the other side? And I point that back to part three of this series as it relates to acknowledging our part, is that many times we wouldn't know what was going on, the deep dark secrets where bodies are buried and all that, if we
Yeah.
weren't there.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know certain things unless we participated in those things.
Yeah.
So there are multiple layers of looking in the mirror and apologizing
Yeah.
to ourselves
Yeah.
for what we did knowingly. I said that already. What we didn't do, but also what we allowed to happen, even if we didn't participate. There
Yeah.
is some ownership there that we have to reconcile with ourselves. And this is why this is so important.
Yeah, I I don't know where we would be as a community without good,
Hmm.
but I think in some cases we're waiting for someone else to do the good,
Hmm.
because for us to do good, it takes
Hmm.
work like this. And I watched a lot of people do Facebook posts, and I don't post as much as I ought to, especially to support, business and, generate content. And this, because there's so much volume out there, that one of the things I've tried to do is post meaningful, quality
Yeah.
content, not just stuff, just to have stuff sake.
Hmm.
But sometimes I watch people's posts and I wonder, is that genuine? So when I make my own, I'm like, okay, people would think, okay, well, Craig, Michelle, they got this thing on lock. They do this podcast. They got these great steps. But I think the thing that we got to make sure we tell people is that we go through, we struggle with this stuff every day. That's why we're doing this show. We're not doing this show because we got it all put together. We're doing this show to help other people with some of the things that we've struggled through
Hmm.
and struggle with. And so
Hmm.
these are tools that we
Hmm.
use,
Hmm.
to get life together and stay on target, keep our families on point, keep our mindset. Because really, it's really a moment by moment situation that we have choices that we're faced with to either do good, forgive ourselves, apply the steps, get through the trench, and make it better than just
Hmm.
flying out the handle and say, "Oh, the hell with it, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do." And then it becomes a whole new series of extra steps and
Yep.
problems that we got to now deal with and get through. I don't, I don't need any more trouble, Shell. I got enough right now. You
Every
know?
day has its own trouble, right?
Oh,
It has its own joy, it has its own pleasures, it has its own everything from one end of the spectrum to the other. And we get to choose which
yeah,
one we indulge in, which one we feed, which one we allow to control the day.
yeah. I know some of those choices are better feeling than others, even if they're the bad one, right? I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
I like a bit of pop him in the head. But okay, now you pop him in the head. Now what? Now I got a new problem. I caught a case because I popped somebody in the head. Because so by the time this airs, there's that young college basketball player. She was, I don't need to give the girl's name because she's very popular. She and the other young girl gets played for the national title just last year, and this one
Hmm.
particular athlete got a lot more shine because maybe who she shiny is, right? But
Hmm.
this particular time, just at the game she just played in, she just, I guess, fans rushed the court. They were playing away, and she purposefully bumped into an opposing team's fan who had rushed
Mm.
the court, knocked the girl down, and then
Mm.
she faked it, and she fell down herself like it was the other fan's fault that she got
Mm.
hurt. And look what the fan did to me.
I hadn't seen that. Okay,
Oh,
that's interesting.
so what's funny is it's just like you had mentioned. We have choices that we make,
Yeah.
right? That girl didn't need to. That the two paths of those girls, though they were intersecting,
Hmm.
just could have easily have not had any contact just by a decision.
Hmm.
There's people in our life that we do things to, do things with, have things done to us when all we had to do was make one shift,
Hmm.
and we would have passed each other, and nothing would have ever happened. And I think these steps like this helps us make those kinds of choices because we would have been able to admit something we had been forgiven, name it to take away his power, and then forgive ourselves by acknowledging our part so we don't keep going in the same path that caused us the problem from years before.
Yeah. I think too, it's like, I'm gonna put this back up here. You
Mm.
always do that. So I wanted to be fancy this time and be like, for those of you who are just joining us, we have this step three. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Take it away. Um, it's You brought it up earlier in your conversation with Ryan, and how we're not ever saying that anyone deserves our wrath,
No.
right? Like, or that we deserved someone's wrath. We're
Right.
not saying
Right.
the victim is now the person to blame
Right.
for whatever happened to them. I forget what show it was. I don't know. It might have been Louder Milk. I've been watching Netflix series at night, just on TV while I'm working, because sometimes it's hard to go to sleep when my mind is just going, going, going. But nonetheless, we're not victim blaming. We're saying that when things happen to us, we have to acknowledge how we got there. We have to acknowledge, dang, I actually should have listened to my parents and not gone to that party, knowing that X, Y, and Z or whoever was going to be there. So um, you had mentioned that you didn't apologize for what you said. You apologized for how you said it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a powerful thing to acknowledge within ourselves when we're having these conversations. I had another client. She was like, her one of her family members is constantly making like dramatic in her words, they're dramatic and well, I'm not working, but she's pregnant, she's got all this, whatever. And so they went to the restaurant and it was 5 adults, including this particular um, lady. And the bill came and she was like, I don't know why you guys keep splitting the bill by 5 when I don't have a job. It's like, and so the girl said, well, you ate, didn't you? Like, that was the response. You ate, and your husband's here at the table. So I'm sure he can, you guys have talked about how you're going to handle this while you're in transition. Long story short, the girl who said, my client who said, you ate, though, she felt badly because she's like, I didn't mean for it to come out like that. I wanted to acknowledge what I said, like the truth of what I was saying is you did eat. So why wouldn't we think that you would contribute going forward? Communication is really important. Had there been a conversation from her to the cousin or to the auntie or whoever else was at the table, hey, you guys know I'm not working, or you guys, or I will get something small, but I'm going to need some help with the bill. That would have been a total different approach than just having this expectation and entitlement that I know what you're thinking and you know what you did. No, we can miss all of that. So communicating, Ryan, I'm sorry for the way that I said it, but I meant every word that I said, right? And expecting that on the other side of that, you have a mature person that understands when they have done that and extend that grace. Like, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, Dad, or yes, I can understand where you're coming from, cousin. I get what you mean. Didn't feel good in the moment, but a lot of times when it doesn't feel good in the moment, that's the truth. That's sometimes the truth that we need to hear. Sometimes, not all the time. Most times it doesn't feel good because it's like I'm recognizing the truth in what you're saying. And part of me didn't realize that that's how I was showing up. That's what we're talking about. I didn't realize that I was showing up like that. And now that I realize that, dang, I did come across entitled, I realized I did not communicate well with you. I did not consider that you are another person in this scenario. That's what this step is about. That realization that says, I had a part in this fallout. I had a part in this misunderstanding. I had a part that I can own.
Yeah. That's the tough part. We have to own our part in doing everything that you mentioned, because we don't, so often we want to come out scot-free, as they used to say. I want to be Teflon. Nothing sticks to me. I'm good. Well, I'm sorry. I have 5 kids. I've been through a lot of pots and pans in my life. And contrary to popular belief, Teflon does scratch and peel off. You know what I'm saying?
It does. It does.
You may say, well, you may have had a cheap pan. What do you know? Well, okay, fine. Even the most expensive Teflon, the new stuff they got out, this copper, whatever, it'll scratch eventually. It'll come off, and even under the intense heat and pressure, things will stick to them for a certain amount of time. But regardless, that doesn't make the pot 100% right in every case, because though nothing stuck, I can still burn the food. And that's the situation we define ourselves in, is we can't really burn our relationships based on our own behavior just because we want to seem right and don't want to take any type of blame or acknowledgement for anything that we've done and our part in things. And so I find myself in a lot of ways checking myself daily. I'm into writing music again, right? And of course, like creating shirts and apparel. Yeah. And it's a learning process, right? And I have to always acknowledge which I'm learning to get much better at. And I say much better, but from where I was to this one step, baby step. I hadn't been acknowledging that I have actually improved in a lot of areas. Everything was always, oh, it's bad, or oh, it's whatever. And I was in some cases afraid to like what I've done because in so many cases I didn't necessarily like myself. You feel me? So I don't want to, for those of you who are out there like that, always making yourself feel less and be less in front of people. Some cases that's false humility. Sometimes it's just you deciding to choose to have a poor sense of your own worth
Yeah.
versus looking into the value. We've talked about worth and value on our shows several times, many times.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it's we've got to eventually become more confident in who we are and what we're doing, because we don't ever have that confidence that what we're doing is the best that we could do at that moment, then we're never going to get any better.
Yeah.
And we're never going to heal.
Because you were talking, this is what came up,
Mm.
are you worthy? We're really talking about the love that you have for yourself. Many people may have opinions about what you do or don't do, Craig. They can like a shirt today, they can hate it tomorrow. You can have 20 clients or you can have 5.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, are you doing what you're supposed to do to fulfill what you believe you're supposed to be fulfilling, your purpose?
Yep.
Again, we talk about this a lot too, in terms of when we're fulfilling our purpose, it doesn't mean that other people are going to get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that when you identify your purpose, in fact, you might have more haters when you identify your purpose, because they haven't found within themselves that they're worthy of doing whatever it is they need to do as well. So this step of acknowledging our part, it has to do with acknowledging who we are, who
Right.
we say we are,
Yeah.
who we say we want to be. That manifested person. That not and nobody's perfect. None of us. We will never be perfect, and we can be perfect in what we're doing to the best of our ability, executing on those things that we know we're supposed to be doing, that give us that sense of accomplishment, that makes us within ourselves feel successful. And a lot of times when we don't feel that feeling, that can be fleeting, but that moment in time when we feel like, dang, I am worthy, I do feel successful. When we're not feeling that, it's because something underneath there is telling us we're not worthy. We haven't acknowledged something within ourselves that is holding us back or keeping us connected to something that we need to address, and we're scared to take off that band-aid and see how much we've actually healed. We're scared to take off that gauze and say, okay, what's underneath there, such that I can get to that space and that place where there may be a scar, but that scar says that you have healed and you didn't die in the battle. There are so many more battles to be won, and we can empower ourselves to have that courage and to have that faith and to have that hope that we will absolutely win the war. We have to start by acknowledging ourselves as a part of the problem that keeps us from getting to that space.
I think depending on who you are, real life is happening right now. I'm not quite sure why Evan keeps calling me. Let me see if I can get him to. I know we're recording, so let's
You're good.
take it on the real life. Hey, Evan, can you text me? I'm recording a podcast. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. I just want to let you know my right tire is flat.
Okay, well, you have a tire in the trunk. You have to take it off and put it on.
I do, yeah. I'll have to do it here.
Yep, you can. If you need some help, I will come help you. But this is a great learning lesson for you, young man.
All right.
So, well, I will come over after the podcast. I'll give you a call.
All right. I'll probably be in class, so just let me know.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So that's funny. He called me during school to tell me his tire's flat, and he's got the whole rest of his day ahead.
But you didn't want to wait till the last minute.
Yeah, but
We just talked about this. So he's communicating.
Yeah, that's true.
In advance.
Yeah.
So he doesn't wait. So you now know that he needs some help. He didn't say I need help, but he called you because he wanted you to know he needs help. So he doesn't want to impede on your day, right? Impact your day in a negative way by waiting until he gets out of school at 2:00. Like, Dad, I need you to come.
Yeah.
And you're like, I got this heat press on. I got this client deadline I got to meet. So now you can prepare your day accordingly. You're welcome. Thank
Yeah,
you, babe.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, baby cousin.
Yeah, because I'm like, dude, we're right in the middle of this. I'm thinking it's 11. You don't get out till almost 1. But hey,
You got an hour to prepare
yeah, yeah,
to shift your day.
to shift my day. And it goes back to what we're talking about, worthy, right? I'm thinking, dude, am I worthy enough to make sure this gets done, right? And to be their
Yeah.
dad and to continue to do the things that I'm already doing. I'm like, we could always do better. And we have to ask our question too, whose perspective are we judging our value of worth? Is it
Yeah.
on our perspective, or are we allowing someone else's view of who we are? So, do I have to be, even in Evan's perspective, am I now not worthy to be his dad because I don't drop what I'm doing to go run right over to the school and change his tire for the car to continue to sit there for the rest of the day?
Hmm.
Or is it okay with the car to sit there? You're not on the side of the road, you're not in a not safe place. So it's okay to continue to do things like that and not drop everything on every situation. So it's not a bad thing to someone sometimes tell somebody no, or empower someone else to do their part in a situation.
Yeah.
It's funny because I just watched a comedian yesterday.
Hmm.
How women or mothers treat their male sons versus their daughters. And then
Hmm.
this one particular comedian was like, "Oh," talking to her son, all kind and sweet, versus her daughter. She tells her, "You look fat in that." And I was
Oh
like,
no.
I don't see that as being a situation in every family life, but it was just interesting to see how that person's perspective of how a mother treats their son versus how the mother treats their daughter. And it's the same thing. How do we treat people? How do we want to be treated? How are we being treated? And it all ties into how we view and our worth.
Yes. Good job.
Well,
I think in this case, though, with Evan, sincerely, you saying no, not right now is not saying I'm not coming. I think also you did empower him by saying, son, you gotta tire in the trunk, but he may not feel as confident.
right.
So when you go, because I'm gonna make sure that you go,
Well,
hmm when you
mhm.
go, have him do it. Walk
Yeah.
him through those steps. You may not have to touch it, but it's like he needs you there to validate that he's got
Right.
this too,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And because you can go this time, go. If you couldn't go, then I would say send AAA or have him start. But you wouldn't want him to hurt himself if this is the first time that he's done it. I don't know. Has he changed a tire before?
No, no, he's never done that. He's now one of the things I've always required them to do, them meaning my sons who are drivers, they have to change a tire.
Yeah.
That's you have to be a part of the process. I'm teaching them now all know how to do brakes. And it's funny because um Caden, the 20-year-old, he
Hmm.
happened to be riding with Evan. He says, "My dad, I heard Evan's brakes were grinding," and I was like, "We need to do his
Oh,
brake."
yeah.
I told us that I'll show you how to do your brakes this week.
Yep.
And it's interesting now because he's the first of the kids now who's actually shown wants to show another one how to do the brake
Look
process.
at
Normally,
that.
I've been the teacher, right? To teach
Yeah.
Ryan, I've taught Caden how to do them. Now, I'm not saying that they both can do them by themselves, but Caden is confident enough now where he could do brakes and not be afraid of the process. And that's really all I'm trying to show them is not to be a mechanic,
Yes.
but there's certain things you can do just by watching a video, that you asking the right questions, working with the right people, so you can get beyond and get off that X of always having to rely on someone else. And
Hmm.
I think that's even where we are right here. Are you worthy? Because sometimes we don't even think we're worthy enough to fix a problem that we have with ourselves
Yeah.
or within our life. But that's something else that we need to acknowledge and forgive ourselves for not believing that we're
And yourself.
worth
Yeah.
help, or we're believing in ourselves that we can actually do something
Yeah.
as challenging as I don't know, brake job being one, changing a tire being two, walking from, a mile or whatever this is.
Hmm.
We all can do something.
I love this because what you just did with your in your brain
Mhm.
is You created a new, number one, affirmation, you are worthy. Number two is you created proof to your brain that you are by going through that process, because what you talked about was success in transferring knowledge from yourself. You got help to do something to change your breaks. Now you've transferred that knowledge by applying it, and you've also transferred it by teaching someone else, Caden in this regard, to where now he has the confidence that he can teach the next son, and then the next son, and the next son, or whomever. So the proof is in the pudding. You are worthy. And now your brain knows that. So when you start feeling doubt, like your designs are not this, or your technology isn't that, or that you had this conversation with someone and you left on bad terms and you can't go back and repair that by being honest about where you were, your brain is like, boy, bye. You just don't want to. Because you've already proven that you can.
Yeah. And I
love
love
that.
and I appreciate that, because those reminders, I think for me, it's so easy to get tunnel vision that
Yeah.
every situation feels like, if we let it, feels like a unique situation, when in reality, it's experience
Yes.
with life and activities over time. And if we realize that all of the situations are, they're not all necessarily related, but they are related because we're involved, so they're connected, right? So experience over time is wisdom, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I give. So here's the thing too, because I didn't stop what I was doing and run right over there. Evan just texted me again and says, hey, my friend is helping me change the tire. So now it's also allows some other child who was not child, and these are young people, right?
Young men, yeah.
Young
Yeah.
men who've had experience, right, with this and are wise enough to do it, to attempt to do it. And I'll come and see him afterwards. If we get it right, fine. If it doesn't, I'll come and get it myself, right? Because so it's another exchange of knowledge, right, and
Yeah.
experience, where hopefully everyone won't feel afraid to do it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's really what I want him to do. And he's got a situation right now where another guy was changing his car stereo out, and now they got really busy. And so Evan's stereo is just removed from the car, and there's a big gaping hole. And I just told him yesterday, I said, I asked him, I said, what are you doing with the radio? Well, my friend is busy, but, well, can we go get somebody else to do it? Because otherwise it can just as easily become okay for Evan to accept the fact that he can not have a radio, not have something,
Yes.
because one person doesn't know how to do it. And that's
Yeah.
not what I ever want to teach these kids.
I know we're coming to a close. Earlier, when you were talking about your car, and I was like, who don't want to drive a 74? Because I love that car.
Yeah.
And I would, take it from you if I had money. You said it don't have no heat. It looks good, but it doesn't function the way I need it to.
Sure.
And that too should be one, oh, let me do this because I don't. There we go. Save that and show it again. Doesn't function the way I need it to.
Yeah.
And it made me think, as we're wrapping up this particular portion, like, we may all look like we have it together. We may appear on the outside, and the words, even sometimes that we say, that the things that we do looks really good. But until we start acknowledging our part, until we get all of that out, we won't function the way that we need to. And we'll keep perpetuating negativity, disappointment, sabotaging ourselves and others because we don't feel worthy.
Yeah.
And I love this, because what you're going to find, followers and viewers, is that today, on this day, a show about being worthy is going to be shared. So it's just amazing how these things come full circle. But we can't only look good. We have to function the way that we're intended to. And we do that by forgiving ourselves.
Yeah. I love it too. And sometimes I realize, especially with car repairs and even medical issues that some of us allow to go unchecked and untreated without seeing our doctors, it doesn't get better magically on its own in
Mm,
every case. There are some
right.
cases, of course, of miraculous healings, miraculous car repairs, and things like that. But there's other things that can be miraculously healed and solved as well by taking it to a mechanic, doing the
Hmm.
maintenance yourself, going to have surgery, taking the medication. Those are healings the same way. It's
Yeah.
just not as miraculous and immediate as what we would have wanted and felt like we and ourselves may have wanted. So waiting on the help and healing may not always be the situation where we want to find ourselves. We got to put
Yeah.
in work. And
Yeah.
sometimes the work we put in is going to be painful, downright unbearable in some cases, right? But we can do all things through the Lord who gives us the strength to do them. So we're going to be fine. And I love it. So moving into the next week,
Yeah.
whew, number 4.
Oh, I'm just gonna click and put it up there. Forgive your
Mm,
offender.
Lord Jesus. And that Lord it's I'm gonna spell it like they did down south. LAAWD.
D. Help us.
That one might be a little longer show because
Oh, why I was thinking about that.
because some of us ain't for forgiving our offender, and some of us is well over 50.
Listen, we talked about wounds and healing, and sometimes there could be a scab and it's still open underneath there because only the skin has healed, not the wound itself.
Yeah.
Huge,
Yeah. It's
huge.
funny. It's funny you use the analogy of the scab, band-aids, and gauze, and even in the healing process, there's moments when those types of wounds require the covering to be removed
Mm-hmm. Get
because
some
it can't
air.
be some air because the bandages keep the wound moist, and it can't be moist for the scabbing to probably the skin to heal as fast in the way it should. And sometimes you can do it, keep it moist too long, you can actually get fungus and mold to grow because of
Yes.
wetness. And so we've got to be able to, like you said, remove those bandages, leave them
Yeah.
off. I mean, at the right time. I mean, and then we also have to do our things with healing repair. There is things that we need to do. Our diet needs to be improved, and because our bodies need the fuel, it needs to function. I have, and you've seen my father's fingers. He used to have issues with
Mhm.
arthritis, and that is something that's in my bloodline.
Yeah.
I've been feeling aches and pains and stuff from old injuries and other, war stuff that I've been not war. I mean, I've had injuries, right? And so I was in the battle of the
You in there.
Chateaubriand. I had
You in
musty
there.
gas wounds all over
I'm
my
in a
body.
battle in my mind. Yeah, no,
So,
sincerely.
but I have to admit, I, lo- I have to admit, my part, I love sugary sweets. I love garbage, right?
Hmm.
To eat garbage, right? Because
Hmm.
it's a great, wonderful taste, right? Compared to the cardboard stuff that's healthy, right? So I have to grow a taste for the tasteless because
Well, first you have to let's do this step for a minute.
hmm,
Admitting
yeah,
you have a problem with sugar.
yeah,
2, take away its power. You have to rename the
yeah,
cardboard stuff because that's not
yeah.
fair. Not all healthy things taste poorly.
That is true. That is true. But I can honestly say, I have found some of the not cardboardy, tasty stuff to be good. But I tell you what, I'm growing accustomed to the taste of it, whatever it is, good or
Yeah.
bad, because there is a definite benefit to it. I can feel in my body. I've been without a lot of the same volume of sugar for about
Hmm.
a month now. And I tell you what, my body feels so much better. The aches and pains that were always there in the place where I've either gym injuries or whatever, they let me, they're reminding me that there is pain,
Yes.
but it's more like, hey, I feel a lot better today versus where they were 2 to 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And it's
That's
the same way in
amazing.
life. We got to take care of the crap in our lives so our relationships, pains, and our relationships don't have the same intensity.
I'm kind of stuck right now because I put step 4 up there, and you're talking about pain in our body and the reminders of pain, and it's not as bad as it used to be, da 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 da. And then it made me think about your craving created your challenge. And sometimes we have to forgive ourselves by acknowledging our part.
Yeah.
But what that also means that we can be the offender of ourselves.
Yeah, that's tough to eat. To call that out, it's even tougher in some cases to forgive ourselves. Because when you to admit that I did this to myself, then how do you get mad at yourself for that and stay on the right path? Because sometimes when we're mad at ourselves, we self-medicate through
That's
other.
exactly what that's exactly. I didn't want to go. See, you're going there. We gotta go. We gotta go because we're gonna be in this topic.
Sorry.
We don't go.
All right.
So
we don't go.
In our strategy session, we will document these things that are happening right now in our brains. Because that is real. That is really, 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 really.
Well, while you're closing, we're gonna put this shield up there so you can see that. Oh, gotta take the banner down. Where's the banner? That's all. So if you want to follow us, then thank you for those who are already following us and subscribing to our social pages. We appreciate you can do this. Share with a friend, tell a friend. We're also up on Podbean as well. We'll add that to that link.
We gotta add that.
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome. And those who are following us on Podbean, and eventually as it begins to spur from Podbean, that's audio only, no video. If you have show ideas, email us at Knight&Craig@gmail.com. You could also hit us on our socials as well. Message us on any one of those pages. Leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe. Definitely appreciate, again, all of those who've been on this journey with us as we're learning, as we're growing. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Next week, forgiving our offender. I'm gonna practice so I don't lose any sleep about that, even thinking about Monday's strategy session, because there's some people who've been offensive, but I think, again, we're not gonna jump there, but so I'm gonna hold that. We're just going to deal with the parts that we dealt with today. So think about today, what we learned, walk through the steps. We got all 5 steps. If you want to, catch up, if you missed an episode, go back, catch up. We're in season 2 already. Catch us in season 1. And we're going to kind of head and do it there. We'll hit this thing out. Anything else you want to say to the folks on our way out, Shell?
Thank you. When we see your comments, it brings us joy, whether they're positive or encouraging or otherwise, like in the most loving way, feedback. We love seeing that. And we do look at every single one of them, and we try our best to respond to all of it. So keep that coming. It lets us know where you are and lets us know that we're on the right path. And we just appreciate you being on this journey. Step 4 is coming, and that's all I'm gonna say. I'm throwing away the keys at my lips. See you next time.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the versus supreme. So long, you better catch a God for him to sing. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. I think we got one.